This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. A month ago, I shared a tabloid story from The Globe suggesting that Prince Harry is deliberately provoking Donald Trump, almost as if he's trying to force a deportation that would let him leave his marriage without appearing to just abandon Meghan high and dry, and at the same time making Trump look like the scapegoat and stirring up backlash against the administration. Jack Royston's latest article today in Newsweek essentially confirms what I've been pointing out all along. Now remember, Jack Royston has long acted as a propagandist for Harry and Meghan. He's been deeply tied to their narrative and even linked to figures like Christopher Buzzi in past controversies. So when he writes something like this, it actually reveals the strategy Harry is pursuing to protect himself. Harry is in serious trouble, and he knows it. And Royston's piece gives us a glimpse into Harry's current positioning and desperate moves to save face, or his ass. I'll share the key parts of this article. I'm not going to bother to recap the whole thing since much of the background is already familiar, but it lines up perfectly with the pattern we've been discussing. So Jack kicks off by saying, Prince Harry and Meghan launched their boldest challenge to Donald Trump since a lawsuit over Harry's visa led to warnings the president might try to kick Harry out of America. Harry and Meghan took veiled swipes at Trump in 2020 in the run-up to that year's November presidential election, but stayed quiet for the 2024 campaign. No, Jack, Harry and Meghan were involved with interfering with the 2020 election. No reason was ever given, but one striking difference between the two elections may lie in comments made by Trump in a 2024 GB News interview stating that if Harry lied on his papers, they would have to take appropriate action, which was widely interpreted as a veiled threat to revoke his U.S. visa. No, Jack, that's not the reason why Harry and Meghan stayed quiet. Let's remember how unpopular this couple are here in America, as well as them being involved with the censorship. They were staying under the radar because the polls were showing that Donald Trump was going to be winning. So they wanted to make sure that they weren't drawing attention to themselves in any way, shape, or form to receive blowback. But Jack knows this. He knows how unpopular and disliked Meghan is here in the United States. If Meghan opened her mouth about Kamala Harris, that would be like the kiss of death. I'm pretty sure Meghan's handlers told her to keep her mouth shut. The fact that Harry is now confident enough to take Trump on so openly and directly may raise eyebrows against the backdrop of ongoing rumors that Harry and Meghan may want to spend more time in Britain if they get police protection. Yeah, I think part of the plan is create a hostile environment here in America to where Harry is forced to go back to the United Kingdom, pretty much leaving the Home Office with no other choice than to give him back his security. Trump, of course, did win the election, but Harry and Meghan did not intervene to back Democrat Kamala Harris during campaigning, despite Meghan having praised Harris back in 2020. Once in office, Trump did not, in fact, intervene to strip Harry of his visa. Again, no official reason was given, but some connected the dots to the couple's decision not to campaign for Harris. Now, though, Harry has become more vocal again. Let me tell you why that is. Because right now, we're in a moment in history where we're seeing chaos happening in Minnesota. And this is a result of all these organized protests that are funded and backed by these globalists. So right now, the left is desperately trying to turn the tables on the MAGA base. And from what I'm seeing is Harry is capitalizing on this chaos and jumping on the blowback that Trump received for his comments about NATO. So you've got pressure and chaos that's happening here in the United States, and then Harry's adding fuel to the fire with the pressure that Donald Trump is facing externally from the international globalist community who are not happy that Trump went into Davos and blew up the one world agenda. This stupid fool doesn't understand that we don't want to deport him. He's got to face the consequences for what he has done, period. And Harry knows his time is coming. That's why he had Jack Royston write about Imran Ahmed and the CCDH. So it says here, Of course, some Europeans already claim they have been targeted by the Trump administration due to their political views, including 5 people who have campaigned for European laws to regulate American tech companies, a subject close to Harry's heart. Former EU Commissioner Thierry Breton, Imran Ahmed, CEO of the Center for Countering Digital Hate, Annalena von Hodenberg, and Josephine Ballon of Germany's Hate Aid, and Claire Melford, co-founder of the Global Disinformation Index, were all subject to visa bans. Announcing the move, Marco Rubio wrote on X in December, "For far too long, ideologues in Europe have led organized efforts to coerce American platforms to punish American viewpoints they oppose. The Trump administration will no longer tolerate these egregious acts of extraterritorial censorship." French President Emmanuel Macron in December accused Washington of coercion and intimidation over the move, The Guardian reported. And this is all I'm going to read from this article, because the important piece here is this acknowledgement of Harry being a supporter of these European laws. This is the first time any of these propagandists have acknowledged Harry's work in this space. And you can see how Jack is now positioning this narrative, piggybacking off of the same strategy that Imran Ahmed is using of, oh, we're just trying to prevent harm and keeping people safe. And, the regulators need to enforce their policies on these social media companies because too much harm is happening to our children. In this lawsuit that Imran Ahmed has against the government now, they're making him look like he is the saint trying to do good for society and really be a humanitarian here. The evil and mean fascist Trump administration is taking away Imran's First Amendment rights. You're going to see the same narrative being played out here now with Prince Harry. And what we're seeing now is this momentum starting to pick up. Similar to what we saw back in 2018 leading up to the 2020 election, where you had these leftists literally causing chaos everywhere. Remember George Floyd? Look at Minnesota now. Minnesota is kicking up a storm again. But this time around, people are not stupid, especially people that watch this channel. The same forces that are behind all of these riots are the same forces that Harry and Meghan are a part of. You don't believe me? Let me go ahead and show you. So Hillary devil-worshipping Clinton puts up a post today writing, "In Minnesota, scores of ordinary people are bravely looking out for their neighbors, defending their communities, and protesting lawless violence. They are the best of America." Here's how to stand with them. So Hillary Clinton goes ahead and puts this organization up, standwithminnesota.com. Hillary Clinton is actively promoting these organized protests that are being funded and backed by organizations where Soros and Vice and people like Harry and Meghan are behind. Just like the No Kings protests, where Color of Change and Parents Together, that partner organization with Archwell Fugazi Public Charity, held responsibility for those destructive protests and riots. Well, this go around in Minnesota, Harry and Meghan are connected once again. One of the organizations that have boots on the ground and causing a lot of this chaos is an organization by the name of Alight, an organization of which Archwell Fugazi Public Charity has been giving money to for the Fugazi Welcome Project. So now what I don't think many people understand or picked up on is that this organization received almost $30,000 for sewing one time. In the Archwell report, it is mentioned that they got somebody a $250 sewing machine so she could go home and make culturally appropriate clothing for the community. Forget about assimilating. We're just going to make hijabs for the community because we have no intention on adopting the American way of life. So now I want you to understand why this is bad. I think many of us look at these grants that are being given to these organizations and thinking, oh, they're just these grassroots organizations to where this money is going and it's going to go a long way for them. Maybe they're actually really in need. When I looked up this organization, I've come to discover that they're not suffering for money. In 2024, this organization brought in almost $64 million, headquartered in Minneapolis. So what portion of that money came from the government. In 2024, it's like almost $30 million that they were given by the US government. So Meghan and Harry's almost $30,000 grant going to this organization for sewing, you got to wonder, how much money did Meghan and Harry receive in return for allowing Alight to be a part of this so-called welcome project and the services that Archewell is providing? Or not even Archewell. I'm talking about all those other shell companies that could possibly be for-profit business where money is going into an offshore account and then funneled back into Archewell in the form of a DAF anonymously to make it look like a legit charity. You gotta wonder. But that's not the worst part about this. You see, this organization is now under investigation as a result of being connected to all of this Minnesota fraud. Exposed by Philip Parrish, who is running for position in Minnesota, outlines all of their connections to various organizations that are responsible for the chaos that we are seeing now in Minnesota, as well as connected back to terrorist organizations in Somalia. On his website, he writes, Minnesota's immigrant defense ecosystem is a taxpayer-funded protection racket for a $1 billion plus welfare fraud empire that launders money through Somali and Latino nonprofits and wires millions via hawala to al-Shabaab terrorists. The same groups that run ICE observer patrols, IDN, Copal, Merak, Indivisible, Twin Cities, Andrea Grazzini, provide the street muscle and legal cover for the fraud rings. The Waltz administration ignored 2019 red flags, pressured investigators to stand down, and accepted campaign cash from fraud-adjacent donors. He goes on to say, your tax dollars aren't building bridges, they're bankrolling a cartel. IDN, that 2025 spun Hydra of 90-plus orgs, midwife by ACLU hacks like Julio Zelaya and Copol's Orion Perez, unites faith frauds and labor leeches to defend immigrants. But really? It's rapid response sabotage, leaking ICE raid spots via signal chats to protect FOF shells and autism billing vampires. Merak, that 2006 anti-war Frankenstein co-founded by Erica Zarowski, screams legalization for all, while Hawala piping millions to al-Shabaab, direct ties to Alight's $1 billion refuge racket, where grants, like Meghan and Harry's, vanish into sham meals and terror tithes. Waltz ignored 2019 red flags, Ellison whispered favors for fraud cash, and Soros purple flows through indivisible Twin Cities resistance texts to DFL PACs. So yeah, I highly doubt that almost $30,000 and other welcome project grants that were being given to organizations like this who are connected to this Minnesota nonsense that's going on right now is all part of this scam. These so-called grassroots movements are not organic. They're being backed by these billionaires. Harry and Meghan and the filth that they associate with are responsible for the death of Renee Good, the death of Alex Pretty. They're the ones who are responsible for the open borders. They're the ones for robbing Americans. And this just goes to show you that they are also connected to this fraud. So now we can understand a little bit better as to why there's so much hatred against Donald Trump. This NGO scheme is so massive, but this is a product of these globalists coming from the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, NATO. It's those people who have created this fraudulent network to siphon money from the hardworking taxpayers across the West. I mean, it's not a coincidence that all of the issues that we are seeing with these man-made emergencies and crises happening at the same time, to which the taxpayer is burdened to have to give more money to these so-called emergencies, from the pandemic to migration to the climate change bullshit. Everybody was going through the same pains at the same time, and the rich just kept on getting richer. Now we know why. This fraud that you see happening in Minnesota, you can bet that it's happening in the UK. especially around all the funds that had been allocated for migration and the few NGOs that are in receipt of those billions of dollars, then are trusted to then hand it out to various organizations.
I hope you don't mind, but I'd like to share with you why I'm so mad, really mad. I have just read that we, Britain, are sending £19 million to Pakistan to help, amongst other things, with children's sexual exploitation. Oh, lovely. Thank you very much. Can we not start spending money on things when they are needed here first? It's our taxpayers' money. We've got grooming gangs now in London, although, of course, our wonderful Mayor Sadiq Khan doesn't actually know what a grooming gang is, it would appear. The Metropolitan Police are £260 million short on their budget, and they're now looking into 9,000 cases that could be grooming gangs. Where are they going to get the money to do that? Oh, let me think. Pakistan has been sent £19 million. For God's sake, this is our money, this is taxpayers' money. Can we please sort issues out here before our government just starts handing it out elsewhere? It's totally unacceptable.
Mark my word, if Archwell does make it out and come back, you're going to see their business shift to Europe, because now they're called Archwell Philanthropies and their website has been wiped clean. I wonder why. These two have been involved in some real shit. And I think now Harry's getting brazen because there are many people right now who are in the same shit. They really need to start arresting people. Not just the low-hanging fruit that they're doing right now. We're talking about Soros, the Clintons, Obama, Mayorkas, all the people that have caused this pain that we're feeling right now. We now know that the election was rigged. We know about all the children that were trafficked and missing. This was not the result of the right and conservatives. This was all the left's doing. They enabled it. They funded this destruction with our money, and they profited off of it. That's why they're having such a tizzy right now and trying to stop Donald Trump, or at least destroy the MAGA base so they can take back the House and the Senate for our midterms. This is why it's important you all understand what's at stake here. It's not just Americans that have to worry about this. The rest of the world does too, because the forces that are behind all of this sabotage is global. And that's what people don't seem to understand or pay attention to. The forces that we have contributing to this mess are doing all of this, and you see how they're doing it, with the example of Meghan and Harry. And this is something that we didn't know the first go around, so let's not repeat the same mistakes. And if you are an American, make sure that you're registered and vote in this midterm election, because it's just as important as the actual election. I never really paid attention to the midterms, but now I understand what's at stake. We can't lose this country. It's going to take a lot to turn this ship around, but we need to start seeing some arrests, because a lot of these people who caused this pain the first go around are behind the scenes plotting and scheming to cause more harm. And, perfect example, Harry and Meghan, they need to be locked away. Let's hope that time is coming soon, but those are just my thoughts and opinion. But what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!
Such a fraud.